Everybody on the floor. Now. The gun hit the counter with a sharp metallic crack, rattling the coffee cups at Riverside Diner, just off West Madison Street in Chicago. A woman screamed. A chair scraped violently against the tile. Before we continue, take a quick second to support the channel. These stories take time, care, and real effort to create. If you enjoy powerful billionaire stories like this one, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our community. Thank you. Now, let's continue. Emily Carter didn't move. She stood behind the counter, hands resting flat beside the register, eyes locked not on the gun, but on the man holding it. He was young. Nervous. His finger shook on the trigger. That detail mattered. "Take the money," she said calmly. "It's right there." The robber blinked. "What?" he snapped. "The register," Emily repeated, her voice steady, clear, almost soothing. "You don't need to scare anyone." The second robber, shorter, jittery, whispered, "Man, just hurry up." Emily reached back slowly, popped the drawer, and stepped aside. No panic. No shaking. No begging. The entire diner seemed to freeze around her. In the corner booth, a man in a tailored dark coat lifted his head. Nathaniel Hale had survived hostile takeovers, corporate warfare, and quiet threats whispered behind closed doors in Manhattan boardrooms. He had stared down senators and crushed billion-dollar competitors without raising his voice. But something about the waitress made his attention sharpen instantly. Not her face. Her voice. It cut through the chaos like a memory clawing its way back to the surface. The gunman scooped cash with clumsy hands. His partner kept glancing at the door. Sirens wailed in the distance. "Move!" the gunman shouted again. Emily raised her hand slowly this time, not in fear, but compliance. Her eyes never left his. "You're already late," she said quietly. "You should go." That was when the robber hesitated. It lasted only a second. But it was enough. They ran. The door burst open, cold night air rushing in as the two men vanished into the alley just as police sirens screamed closer. Silence slammed into the diner. A woman sobbed. Someone laughed hysterically. Plates clinked as shaking hands tried to steady themselves. Emily exhaled once. Then she picked up the phone. Nathaniel stood. He didn't rush. He didn't speak immediately. He walked to the counter slowly, his shoes echoing against the tile. "You didn't panic," he said. Emily glanced up at him. "Panicking doesn't help," she replied. There it was again. The voice. Controlled. Familiar. Haunted. Nathaniel's chest tightened. "I've heard you before," he said, more to himself than to her. Emily's eyes flickered. "Just once." "What can I get you?" she asked, already reaching for the coffee pot. He studied her face now. Blonde hair pulled back, pale skin, no visible scars. She looked ordinary. Too ordinary. "What's your name?" he asked. "Emily Carter." A lie. A careful one. "Born here?" he asked casually. "Yes." Another lie. Police lights flooded the windows red and blue. Officers poured in. Statements were taken. Names were written down. Nathaniel Hale gave none. He left before the paperwork finished, his coat already on, his mind racing faster than it had in years. 7 years later. Manhattan. Nathaniel Hale stood 50 floors above New York City, watching traffic crawl like glowing veins beneath him. His office was silent except for the hum of the city and the soft tick of an expensive watch on his wrist. Forbes called him a visionary. Wall Street called him ruthless. Governors called him dependable. None of them knew the truth. A thin folder lay open on his desk. Subject: Emily Carter. Real name: Emily Ross. Former city: Boston, Massachusetts. Status: disappeared from records 14 years ago. Nathaniel closed his eyes. Boston. He hadn't thought about that city in years. Back when he was just another ambitious finance prodigy with too much money and the wrong people around him. Back when mistakes were buried with non-disclosure agreements and silence. Back when Emily Ross had vanished overnight. He remembered her voice then, too. Shaking. Begging. Breaking. The waitress in Chicago hadn't sounded like that. She sounded stronger. He picked up the phone. "Find her," he said quietly. "No contact. No alerts. I want everything." "Yes, sir." Nathaniel set the phone down and poured a drink he didn't touch. Money had bought him power, control, protection. But it hadn't erased the past. Brooklyn, the same night. Emily Carter locked the door of her small apartment and leaned against it, finally letting her breath shake. The walls were thin. The neighborhood was loud. The apartment smelled faintly of detergent and old wood. She pressed her forehead against the door. She had known this day would come. She just hadn't known how. The man in the diner hadn't given his name. But she had recognized him instantly. Older. Sharper. Richer. Still dangerous. Nathaniel Hale. The man who had destroyed her life in Boston and walked away untouched. She had changed her name. Changed her city. Changed everything. But voices remember. And so do men like him. Emily straightened, walking to the window and staring out at the Brooklyn streetlights. "This time," she whispered to herself, "I won't be silent." Nathaniel Hale did not chase people. People came to him. That was how power worked once you reached a certain level. CEOs waited weeks for 15 minutes of his time. Senators returned missed calls within seconds. Entire cities reshaped zoning laws to attract his investments. Yet at 3 a.m, Nathaniel sat alone in his Manhattan penthouse, watching surveillance stills of a diner waitress on a secure tablet. Emily Carter. Or rather, Emily Ross. The private investigator stood silently across the room, hands clasped behind his back. "She's clean," the man said. "No criminal record. No social media. No digital footprint beyond basic employment data. Whoever she is now, she's careful." Nathaniel's eyes stayed on the screen. "She didn't used to be," he replied. The investigator hesitated. "Sir, 14 years is a long time." "Not long enough," Nathaniel said flatly. He swiped to another image, Emily leaving the diner that night, coat pulled tight, head down. No fear. No rush. "She recognized me," Nathaniel continued. "Didn't she?" The investigator nodded. "Based on her body language?" "Yes." "Immediately." Nathaniel leaned back, the leather chair silent beneath him. That meant something else, too. She had survived. Whatever he had buried in Boston, whatever he had paid to make disappear, it hadn't ended her. And that unsettled him more than guilt ever could. Brooklyn, 2 days later. Emily moved like someone who expected to be watched. She varied her route to work. Changed subway cars at the last second. Refused rides. Paid cash whenever possible. Riverside Diner noticed the change. "You okay, Em?" her manager, Frank Miller, asked as she refilled a mug. "You've been jumpy since that robbery." "I'm fine," she said. A lie. At night, the past crept in. Boston came back in fragments. Cold offices, men in suits who smiled while threatening everything she loved. A younger Nathaniel Hale standing near a window, detached, silent, letting others speak for him. She had begged him to intervene. He hadn't. Instead, he had paid. Paid to make the problem go away. She had been the problem. Emily stopped at the edge of the Brooklyn Bridge after her shift, gripping the railing as traffic roared past. The city glowed like it always did, indifferent, relentless. "You don't own me anymore," she whispered into the night. But deep down, she knew power didn't need ownership. It only needed leverage. Manhattan, Hale Capital. The executive floor froze when Nathaniel exited the elevator. Assistants straightened. Conversations died. He walked directly into the boardroom, ignoring the presentation already projected on the wall. "Postpone," he said. A junior executive swallowed. "Sir, the Phoenix acquisition." "Postpone," Nathaniel repeated. Silence. Once the room cleared, Nathaniel turned to his head of security, Robert Klein, a former federal agent with no illusions about morality. "I want eyes on her," Nathaniel said. "No contact. No intimidation. Robert frowned. Sir, may I ask why? Nathaniel met his gaze. She deserves to know what I've become. That wasn't the truth. The truth was simpler. He needed to know whether she hated him. 3 weeks later, Emily noticed the man across the street for the third time that week. Same coat, same posture, same mistake. He never looked at her directly. That was how she knew. She didn't confront him. She didn't run. Instead, she walked into a quiet coffee shop in Williamsburg, sat down, and waited. The man followed. He ordered nothing. Emily turned. "Tell him to stop," she said calmly. The man froze. She leaned back in her chair, heart pounding but voice steady, the same voice that had caught Nathaniel's attention. "I don't scare easily anymore," she continued. "But I don't like games." The man sighed. "You should go home." "Tell him," she repeated, "that if he wants answers, he can ask me himself." That night, Nathaniel received the message. He stared at the city for a long time before responding. "She hasn't changed," Robert said quietly. "No," Nathaniel replied. "She's stronger." The invitation. The envelope arrived 2 days later. Cream paper. No return address. Inside was a single card. Nathaniel Hale requests your presence. Hale Foundation Gala, Central Park Conservatory, Friday, 8 p.m. Emily stared at it for a long time. Then she laughed. A soft, humorless sound. He wanted control. Optics. Neutral ground surrounded by cameras and donors. He wanted safety. Emily slipped the card into her bag. "This time," she said to herself, "I choose the battlefield." Friday night. Central Park. Crystal chandeliers glowed beneath the glass conservatory as Manhattan's elite gathered. Billionaires. Politicians. Media figures. Nathaniel stood at the center of it all, flawless in a black tuxedo, calm and untouchable. Until he saw her. Emily entered wearing a simple navy dress. No jewelry. Hair down. Eyes steady. The room didn't notice her. Nathaniel did. Every muscle in his body tightened. She walked straight toward him, stopping just close enough to be undeniable. "Mr. Hale," she said politely. "Emily," he replied. A beat. Or should I say Emily Ross? Her expression didn't change. "Looks like you finally remembered," she said. They stood surrounded by wealth and power, smiling like strangers while 14 years of buried truth pressed between them. Nathaniel lowered his voice. "I never meant for you to disappear." Emily's smile sharpened. "And yet," she replied softly, "you made sure I did." The music swelled. Cameras flashed. And for the first time in his billionaire life, Nathaniel Hale realized something terrifying. Money could buy silence. But it couldn't rewrite the ending. The gala applause faded into background noise as Nathaniel Hale led Emily Ross through a side corridor lined with glass and marble. To anyone watching, it looked harmless, philanthropist escorting a guest. In reality, it was a reckoning walking on polished floors. They stopped in a private lounge overlooking Central Park, the city glowing beneath them like a living map of Nathaniel's influence. The door shut softly behind them. Silence stretched. "You shouldn't have come," Nathaniel said at last. Emily folded her arms. "You invited me. I offered you safety." She laughed once. "You offered control." Nathaniel turned to face her fully now. Up close, she could see the changes. Age had sharpened him, not softened him. He was calmer. Deadlier. "You vanished without a word," he said. "I assumed you took the settlement and moved on." Emily's eyes hardened. "You assumed wrong." Boston, 14 years ago. Emily had been 23 when the meeting happened. The office smelled like leather and cold air. Men in suits spoke around her, not to her. Lawyers. Fixers. People who specialized in quiet endings. Nathaniel Hale stood by the window, younger then, brilliant and distant. He never raised his voice. Never threatened. He didn't have to. "She's a liability," one man said. Emily looked at Nathaniel, waiting. He didn't look back. The papers slid across the table. Money. Silence. Disappearance. Her life reduced to a line item. She had signed because the alternative was worse. She had left Boston that night, and Nathaniel Hale had never checked to see if she landed. Present, the lounge. "You let them erase me," Emily said quietly. "You stood there and watched." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "I stopped them from destroying you." "You stopped them from inconveniencing you," she corrected. For the first time, irritation flickered across his face. "You don't understand what that world was like," he said. "I was surrounded by people who fed on weakness. I chose the option that kept you alive." Emily stepped closer. "Alive isn't the same as living." Nathaniel looked away, out at the city he ruled. "I built everything you see," he said. "From nothing." "No," Emily replied. "You built it from people you stepped over." That landed. Nathaniel exhaled slowly. "What do you want?" he asked. Emily studied him carefully. "Not the billionaire. The man underneath." "I want the truth," she said. "And I want you to stop pretending you were helpless." Silence. Then Nathaniel nodded once. "The confession. It wasn't just about you," he said. "Boston was unstable. My partners were ruthless. I was rising too fast." He turned back to her. "They were using intimidation. Blackmail. People got hurt. You were the first thing they could use against me that wasn't financial." Emily's chest tightened. "So you sacrificed me." "I chose damage control," Nathaniel said flatly. "And I told myself it was mercy." Emily swallowed. "You never asked if I forgave you." Nathaniel met her eyes. "Do you?" She didn't answer. Because forgiveness wasn't simple. The shift. "What happens now?" Emily asked. Nathaniel hesitated. Then, for the first time in 14 years, he told the truth. "My empire is under scrutiny," he said. "Federal attention. Old enemies resurfacing. The past is catching up." Emily smiled faintly. "Funny how that works." "If this comes out," Nathaniel continued, "it won't just damage me. It will destroy people. Cities. Thousands of jobs." Emily's smile faded. "There it is," she said. "The leverage." "I'm asking you," Nathaniel said carefully, "to let it stay buried." Emily walked to the glass wall, staring down at Central Park. "I rebuilt my life from nothing," she said. "I survived without your money. Without your protection." She turned back. "You don't get to ask any more." Nathaniel stiffened. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Emily replied, "that I won't expose you." Relief flickered across his face. "But I won't protect you either." The relief vanished. The choice. "You want redemption?" Emily asked. "Earn it." "How?" Nathaniel demanded. "Step back," she said. "From the deals. From the people you shielded. Let the truth come out where it should, through the law." "That could dismantle everything," Nathaniel said sharply. Emily met his gaze without flinching. "Then maybe it should." They stood there, two survivors of the same past, one forged by power, the other by loss. Nathaniel finally nodded. "You're stronger than I remembered," he said. Emily's voice softened. "You never knew me." Aftermath. Emily left the gala alone. Nathaniel stayed behind, staring at his reflection in the glass. For the first time, he didn't like what he saw. The billionaire who controlled everything realized control was slipping. And this time, he wasn't sure whether to fight it or let it happen. Nathaniel Hale had always believed control was permanent. Markets could be corrected. Politicians could be persuaded. Crises could be managed. Every risk had a lever: money, influence, timing. But as dawn broke over Manhattan, standing alone in his penthouse office, Nathaniel felt something unfamiliar. Irreversibility. The city below looked the same. Traffic flowed. Screens glowed. His empire still stood. Yet something fundamental had shifted. Emily Ross was no longer silent. And worse, she no longer needed him. The first crack. It started quietly. Nathaniel withdrew from 3 pending acquisitions without explanation. His board was stunned. Analysts speculated. Competitors circled. Then came the internal review. Compliance teams were given full access, real access. Old files. Archived communications. Shell partnerships dating back to Boston. Robert Klein confronted him in private. "You know what this will uncover," Robert said. "Yes," Nathaniel replied. "And you're allowing it." Nathaniel looked out at the city. "I owe someone the truth." Robert hesitated. "Sir, this could cost you everything." Nathaniel nodded. "I know." Emily's life. 1 month later. Emily returned to Riverside Diner for the last time on a rainy Thursday morning. Frank looked up from the register. "You quitting already?" "Yes," she said gently. "Found something better?" Emily smiled. "Found something honest." She walked out into the rain lighter than she had felt in years. Not because justice had been served, but because fear no longer owned her. She moved to Providence, Rhode Island, a quiet city near the coast. Smaller, slower, anonymous in the right way. She enrolled in school again, studied counseling. She wanted to help people who had been erased the way she once was. The fall. The headlines came 3 months later. Hale Capital under federal investigation. Billionaire Nathaniel Hale steps down as CEO. News anchors called it shocking. Insiders called it overdue. Nathaniel surrendered control without a fight. No public tantrums. No denials. Just silence. He testified privately. Named names. Allowed the system to do what it was designed to do. Slowly, imperfectly, but visibly. He was not arrested. But he was dismantled. Board seats vanished. Influence evaporated. Invitations stopped arriving. For the first time since his 20s, Nathaniel Hale was just a man with consequences. The letter. Emily received the letter on a quiet afternoon. Handwritten. No law firm. No assistant. Just ink on paper. "Emily, I won't ask for forgiveness. I spent most of my life believing outcomes mattered more than people. You proved me wrong. I am stepping away from everything I built. Not as punishment, but because it was built wrong. You were never weak. I was." Nathaniel. Emily folded the letter slowly. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She walked to the ocean and let the wind take it. Some things didn't need answers. 1 year later, Boston. Nathaniel stood outside a modest brick building near the Charles River. No security. No driver. No press. Inside, a community center bustled with quiet activity. Counseling sessions. Support groups. Second chances. A plaque near the entrance read, "The Ross Foundation providing resources for survivors of coercion, silence, and abuse of power." Nathaniel didn't go inside. He simply stood there for a moment. Then he left. Emily. Final reflection. Emily watched the ocean from her apartment window, the sun dipping low over the water. She had forgiven him. Not because he deserved it, but because she deserved peace. Power had once decided her fate. Now, she decided her own. She turned off the light and sat in the quiet. No fear, no shadows, no voice chasing her from the past. Just her own.